Welcome to the Energy Roundup. This is a channel where we discuss the latest matters regarding energy in the UK and around the world. On this channel, we cover anything to do with matters surrounding energy. As this is a new channel, I would really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. As the invasion of Ukraine dragged into its second month, Boris Johnson pitched a solution to a problem plaguing Western governments: how to produce enough energy for their countries now Russian gas was off the table. Johnson's plan was to offer an unexpected lifeline to a divisive industry by promising to build 24 gigawatts of nuclear power capacity over the next 3 decades, up from just 5.88 gigawatts at present. Our aim is to lead the world once again in a technology we pioneered so that by 2050, up to a quarter of our power consumed in Great Britain is from nuclear, the then Prime Minister declared. Britain is not alone. After years of falling in and out of public and political favor given international disasters, including Chernobyl in 1986 and Fukushima in 2011, there is talk of a new dawn for nuclear power. Even countries that have been vehemently opposed to generating electricity from nuclear, notably Germany and Japan, are extending the life of existing plants to avert shortages. In France, where the industry has maintained support, the government is pushing bolder plans for new reactor fleets as it tries to cut its dependence on volatile international energy markets. Britain has been at this juncture before. Successive governments across the political spectrum have for decades vowed to build large new reactor fleets only to fail because of the high costs and complexity of delivering atomic plants, often driving away private sector companies from potential projects. Please use the sharing tools found via the share button at the top or side of articles. In a significant step forward, a month after gaining power in October, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak signed off on a £679 million taxpayer investment in a project co-owned by the French state-backed utility EDF. That project is Sizewell C, a 3.2 gigawatts nuclear power station on the Suffolk coast, in the east of England, which would have the capacity to generate electricity for 6 million homes if it gets off the ground. The goal is to reduce the country's reliance on dirty gas-fired power plants, the single biggest source of electricity generation, which provides a critical backup when other weather-dependent methods such as wind and solar are not able to produce enough power. Yet even the stanchest advocates of civil nuclear harbor doubts over whether Britain's dream of a new golden age will finally succeed, or if this will be the latest in a series of false dawns. Put it this way, says Tom Greatrex, a former Labour MP who now leads an industry lobby group, the Nuclear Industry Association. If we don't succeed this time, all we are doing is storing up even more problems for later. Britain's current nuclear capacity is spread across 5 power stations built between the late 1960s and mid-90s. Last year, they met 15.5% of the country's overall electricity generation mix. The government is already in a battle against time simply to replace its existing nuclear generation, let alone expand the fleet. All but one will be decommissioned by 2028. And the resurrection of such a controversial electricity source will face resistance from those with environmental concerns over how to deal with toxic waste in the long term. If Britain is to realize its dreams to develop more nuclear power, it will have to clear the financial hurdles that held it back in the past. Billions of pounds in equity and debt need to be raised to deliver Sizewell C. EDF has so far only publicly released one estimate of Sizewell C's cost, £20 billion, although that was published in 2020 before huge leaps in inflation. Sunak has promised to set up Great British Nuclear, a new body to oversee the revival of atomic energy in Britain and smooth the development of a new pipeline. This pipeline could include small modular reactors, SMRs, mini-nuclear plants that can be built in factories to reduce costs and are being developed by companies including the UK engineering giant Rolls-Royce. People familiar with GBN say the launch has been delayed by a dispute between the Treasury and the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, BEIS, over funding and its scope. There is a tension about how new nuclear gets financed. But there is always tension with the Treasury on how anything gets financed, says Tom Sampson, head of Rolls-Royce's SMR business. What isn't happening is a conversation around what are our domestic priorities. We are in an energy crisis, in a net zero transition crisis, Sampson argues. Spending the next 2 years talking about what our next nuclear project is going to be is not going to help get a nuclear megawatt on the grid as quickly as possible. The UK has a diverse range of energy sources, including domestic production of oil and natural gas, as well as imports from countries such as Norway and the Netherlands. In recent years, the UK has also been increasing its use of renewable energy sources such as wind and solar power. If Russia were to stop supplying the UK with energy, the country would likely rely more heavily on these other sources to meet its energy needs. Additionally, the UK government and energy companies may look for new import partners to diversify their sources of energy. It is difficult to say whether Russia will cut off all energy exports to the UK, as it depends on the specific circumstances and the political relationship between the two countries. However, in general, countries tend to avoid cutting off all trade with another country, as it can be economically damaging to both sides. Energy is a critical resource, and cutting off all supplies would have severe consequences for both economies. Additionally, Russia has relied heavily on the revenue from energy exports, and it would be detrimental to their economy as well. It's more likely that in case of any political tension, Russia might reduce the supply of energy to the UK rather than cutting it off completely. Russia is one of the largest energy exporters in the world, and Europe is a significant market for Russian energy exports. Cutting off all energy supplies to Europe would likely have a significant impact on both the Russian and European economies. It's also not in the interest of Russia, as it would lose a major market for its energy exports. However, there have been instances in the past where Russia has used its energy exports as a political tool, such as during the gas disputes with Ukraine in 2006 and 2009, which resulted in disruption of gas supplies to several European countries. However, these disputes have been resolved, and it is unlikely to happen again in the near future. Overall, it is unlikely that Russia would cut off all energy exports to Europe, but there is always a possibility of temporary disruptions in case of a major political or economic disagreement. It would be difficult for the UK to completely cope with no energy supplies from anywhere. Energy is a critical resource that is essential for powering homes, businesses, and transportation. The UK currently imports a significant amount of its energy, and without these imports, the country would likely experience shortages and disruptions. The UK does have domestic production of oil and natural gas, as well as renewable energy sources such as wind and solar power, but these alone would not be enough to meet the country's energy needs. Additionally, without energy imports, the cost of energy would likely increase, which would have a negative impact on the economy and people's standard of living. It would be difficult, but the UK government and energy companies would likely work to find new import partners and increase domestic production in order to diversify their sources of energy and mitigate the effects of a complete cut-off. Thanks so much for watching till the end. Please like, comment and subscribe, and turn the notification bell on so you never miss a video. See you next time.